Motivation is a desire to escape discomfort. That's right, shock and awe. This is where it begins. Today we're going to talk about a book that I'm reading and a lot of the team here is rereading here at Chōsen. The book is called Indistractable by Nir Eyal. You likely have heard of this guy before. He wrote the book Hooked. And this is what I'd call the answer, the layman's guide, how not to be hooked, to that book. If you've read Hooked, it's a great book. It's all about making the tools that we use on a daily basis even more habit forming. Yeah, the book was released in 2015, and the tech companies actually have, this in all their libraries for their employees. You got design teams referencing this. It's pretty accurate and has been used extensively in how products have been developed over the past 7 years or so, and what we use every day. So if you're like me, there are 10 times in your life where you're on your phone or online and you get caught in this. Well, I'll speak for myself. Sometimes, like recently, part of the reason I'm reading Indistractable is that I got caught distracting myself, quite frankly. And so reading Indistractable right now as an answer to what's actively going on in the world of technology, in the world of, we have all gone through a year of, what would we call it? Well, let's just go back to the beginning. A year of discomfort. How understated is that? 2020, beginning of 2021, it's been a year of discomfort. So I'm going to introduce this book and I'm going to talk about the beginning of the book. Now, the book itself is broad, which means that it's about a 5-hour read. You can knock it out in about a week. There's actually some really interesting things to go through and work through in the book, and some practical advice that the author gives us for use every day. And I'm going to start with what was really interesting to me, and my takeaway from this is that I needed to approach this book with a beginner's mindset. I needed to approach this book with an open mind, more than anything. As like many of you guys, I'm advanced in my skills, my habits, but I still found myself trying to escape discomfort, trying to distract myself. Despite my incredible morning routine, my gratitude practice, my evening sleep routine, getting back in contact with people, connection, discipline, which we'll talk about in the near future, neuroplasticity and all the skills that I'm learning, all of that's there, but damn, we've been through a lot. We've been through a lot of discomfort over the past year or so, 13 months, 14 months. So approach this with a beginner's mindset, and I guarantee you'll get something out of it. I am looking at the practical tools, and quite frankly, a lot of the wide knowledge that's in the book has actually helped me just re-accept myself and even what I consider my shortcomings with distraction of late. All right, so that was a little bit of personal insight in there. I have notes over here, as you know I like to do. And there's some things about this within the first part of the book, and I'm going to touch on the latter parts of the book in subsequent videos. But what I really like about this is that the problem is deeper than technology. And what that means is that, first and foremost, yes, this guy wrote a book about how to make tech solutions and products stickier and more habit forming. Originally, the impetus for that was to create things that would bring joy and value and improve your health and fulfillment. But how it's been used is to make social media stickier, content, news, and TikTok stickier, things like that. That said, goes back to the first point. Motivation is a desire to escape discomfort. We just have to be aware of that, all right? So what we have to do right from the beginning, and this is what really resonated with me right off the bat, is that this book reminded me that first and foremost, I have to find the root cause of my distraction, first and foremost, rather than what the author calls proximate ones. And technology is a proximate distraction. What is the root cause of my discomfort? A lot of you guys are feeling discomfort. Yes, from the year, 14 months we've had, things are shifting, things are changing, there's a lot of uncertainty still. If you are feeling distracted, ask yourself, what is the root cause for this discomfort, for this desire to distract ourselves from discomfort right now? And for me, this was a wonderful reminder. It's a little confronting. It's not my phone or technology or other things that are causing me to be distracted. There's something behind it that I have to actually deal with first and foremost. And so now you see why we're breaking this up into a number of videos. We're 7 minutes in, and this one is key. This concept of distraction brings satisfaction to us, to me even. Dopamine, serotonin, reward systems, the little pings, scrolling, it's all in the book Hooked. It's designed on purpose to bring you joy. Other distractions, shopping, if you have access to stores these days, or any other habits that you implement to actually get you a little boost of dopamine and serotonin and distract you from your discomfort. That satisfaction that you yield from that is temporary. Now, why is it temporary? And this is where we're going to leave off today. So we're going to kick off this, look into this book from this perspective of learning to deal with discomfort and becoming hyper aware that we're actually biologically, neurophysiologically, evolutionarily designed, for lack of a better word, to not be satisfied for very long. And this is something that we've talked about before, this concept of negativity bias. First and foremost, we've had this discussion in the past, and I want to renew this discussion right now from this beginner's mindset perspective, yielding a very specific result that we are indistractable. Negativity bias, along with boredom, rumination, and hedonic adaptation. And we're going to talk about each one of those. But kicking off with negativity bias just means that we recall negative things easier or more easily than positive things. We see, remember, and eventually ruminate on negative things. That's the second one. More readily than on positive experiences. And we talked about that because we are actively, as hunter-gatherers back in the past, trying to survive. And we had to search the environment for threats. We had to learn from these near-death experiences, basically. It's hardwired into our psyche. And if you have been feeling like that is more of your focus, that's why the gratitude is really important. That's why great morning routines are really important. That's why this growth mindset concept that we've been talking about for a while is really important. But recall that distraction, because satisfaction is temporary, the negativity bias is one of the 4 root causes of that. Second, an easy one, rumination. And I placed it second just because it links directly to negativity bias. It's a tendency to continue to think about bad experiences. I'm not going to harp on it. We all do it. I actually am hypercritical of myself, and it's something that I have to work on a daily basis. Thus, the practices, the playing, the neuroplasticity, the gratitude that I have to incorporate in my life to actually focus on the positive, the real positive things, not the toxic positivity, but the real positive things that happen on a daily basis. There's a reason that is in my life. That's the reason why we talked about it here at Chōsen. 3, boredom. We talk about boredom in flow state. If you're bored, you're going to actively work against yourself. And remember when you were in 2nd grade, 3rd grade, back in grammar school, if you were the bored kid in class, you were probably the kid who was in trouble a lot in class. It happened to me, happened to a lot of our alumni. Boredom doesn't yield productivity. Boredom means you're either not challenging yourself enough or not being challenged in your daily life enough. That's what happens in flow state. Your skill level is really high, but the level of challenge is really low. As such, you are bored. This is something to be aware of. If you're bored, you have to move away from that. Increase the level of skill. Start learning new things. Increase the level of challenge. And then start learning new skills to adapt to that challenge. Now, the last item here, which is really interesting, around satisfaction being temporary, the 4 items, is hedonic adaptation. This is a tendency to return to a baseline level of satisfaction no matter what happens in our lives. Now, we've talked about shifting our mindset and practicing things like gratitude, so your baseline actually does increase, and so you have a skill set and an adaptation to be in a more positive mindset, have a more positive experience overall, and that does take time, but we always return to a baseline. And if satisfaction is that warm, cuddly, fuzzy feeling, distraction is catharsis. It is that bolt of happiness and joy and glee, and it doesn't matter if we win the lottery, sign a huge deal at work, launch or sell a new business, meet the love of our lives. It doesn't matter what that is. That satisfaction is fleeting. And mind you, if you think about it from the same perspective as negativity bias and rumination, it just means that evolutionarily, a satisfied hunter-gatherer was going to likely be an eaten hunter-gatherer. So we're going to stop right there, and we're going to touch back on Indistractable in the near future. Takeaways from today is that motivation is a deep desire to escape discomfort. And you have to find that root cause. That's what I'm doing now, so I'm rereading this book. Find that root cause of that discomfort. It's not your phone. Phone is a proximal cause of distraction. It is what you go to, the shopping, the whatever other habits, the drinking, the recreational drugs, whatever it is that are there that are distracting you. Learn to deal with that discomfort instead of escaping it. There are tools in this book, but a lot of this is the type of reflection that we've already talked about in the near past in the video series. We're going to talk a little bit more about it in the near future. And remember, satisfaction, even though you attain it, this whole, I'm in a constant pursuit of happiness, satisfaction, it will always be fleeting. Due to negativity bias, rumination, our friend boredom, and finally, this concept of hedonic adaptation. You will always return to a baseline level of satisfaction, no matter what happens. So, what that means is you have to increase your baseline to a place where you have the skills, the habits, long-term habit formation to support you in being indistractable. Introduction to the book, pick it up, 5-hour read, maybe 7-hour read, depending on if you're taking notes. We're going to touch back on it again in the near future, but I wanted to intro this to you and say I'm reading it right now because I've been distracted. Thank you so much. John Stanton signing off.